Welcome, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the Forgot to Save podcast, a twice-monthly gaming podcast where we go back and play the games that we always meant to but never got around to doing so with you, the listeners. I'm Mike.
And I'm Stone. And if you're not already listening on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, or Stitcher, you can find us on any of those platforms. Now, like we said last time, we are here today with two very special guests, and they are one half of the Drinking Souls crew, KC and Adam. Adam, why don't you tell us about Drinking Souls first?
So, hey everybody, Stone, Blue, thank you so much for having Casey and I on here. Drinking Souls is a four-man crew, myself, Casey included, also Ultra Radicus and Darkness. We were kind of inspired by actually Blue Lizard Jello himself. Thank you very much. And we all started streaming around the same time. And realized we might as well make a day out of it. So one day we all grabbed drinks, got on the stream together, and started playing Dark Souls 3. And from there, it just kind of went week after week. We would meet back up and basically play through Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I mean, we have a blast watching your streams. I could say that for sure. But we really just got you on here because after that admission, Blue, you can pursue them for copyright infringement. That was the goal the whole time.
Okay, so we can just wrap it up. My lawyers are actually sitting behind me. They gave me the thumbs up. We have everything we need.
Cool. Hey, thanks for coming on, guys. We'll catch you later. No, but seriously, as a group, the streams are a blast. We'll include all the links down below for you guys to check it out because they stream on all four of their channels. Adam does some really, actually super tight editing on them, and he does the highlights for them, and they're a blast. So if you haven't been able to catch any of the streams, I highly suggest checking out Adam's channel. We'll link below, and he has all the highlights that you might have missed. So tell us individually as gamers, and then as your individual streamers, what's kind of your gaming history? What are some of your favorite games so we have an idea of where you're coming from?
Casey, you want to go first?
Sure. All right, hey everyone, it's Casey. So my gaming history started probably actually early 2016. I just bought a PS4, hadn't played in probably 3 years or so before that, and got Dark Souls 2, found Blue Lizard Jello, and that spiraled into all the Soulsborne and actually starting to stream Souls content. So my channel is mostly Soulsborne-ish kind of games and starting to delve into a little bit of horror games.
Oh, dude, your Dead by Daylight streams are so fun.
Dead by Daylight is currently my game of addiction.
So I'm gonna interject right now because last night I finally had the chance to jump into one of Casey's streams. I haven't been able to do so in weeks.
Yeah.
And he was playing Dead by Daylight, and let me tell you, I'm sitting here at my computer with my headphones on, the room is dark, and I am glued. Like, it is the most tense, frightening horror What? Horror movie.
There it is.
Words and gestures, but my hands were sweaty. I was watching him play a video game, and my hands were sweaty, and at one point I was saying, go, 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 go! I was actually yelling for him to escape. It was so exciting.
You should have seen him before he learned how to juke the killers, because that was not so pretty.
I've scared myself on stream and racked my hands on my desk from jumping.
But that's cool. I mean, relatively just got a PS4 and already are in streaming and streaming really regularly. That's super cool.
Yeah, I got suggested to start it, and I was doing Darkest Dungeon at the time, and I asked Blue if he'd do a test stream, and it kind of spiraled into that.
So Blue's to blame.
Yeah.
Basically.
We're
sorry, viewers of YouTube.
Adam, tell us about your channel and your gaming history.
Gaming history, I guess, could go a ways back. I think I started off on a 64 with Super Smash Bros. As my
that's the one.
favorite of all time. Still play that to this day with my cousins and my brother when we all get together over the holidays. I love it. And from there, I kind of went just into a PlayStation gamer, so I had the PS2, PS3. And I would play, I guess, just about anything, from Call of Duty to, I don't know, Dot Hack. Actually, never really a lot of Final Fantasy or any of those kind of games. But more recently, I started playing a game called Dragon's Dogma, which then led into Skyrim, which then led to me trying Dark Souls and failing hard. And then, yeah, I guess from there, I actually also just got a PS4 at the end of last year because I wanted to play Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne. And yeah, I guess I started streaming also because of Blue. I joined the community there, and I was inspired. Saw Casey and Ultra and other guys, Grackle, doing some streams, and figured I'd give it a try. And I've been doing that, I guess, pretty regularly since the end of last year or early this year. And yeah, on my channel now I have some Let's Plays. Been toying around with that, with mostly 2D platformer kind of games. And I'm still every now and then doing some challenge runs in like the Soulsborne series.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's you.
I was gonna one of Adam's claim to fame, other than the montages and the highlight reels that he makes from the Drinking Souls, which if you watch anything on his channel, please make sure it's those because they are fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything's worth watching, but those are just brilliant. But he was the original Pirate Souls content creator, where everything he did in the Souls game, especially Dark Souls 3, was pirate related. He had pirate music playing. He dressed like a pirate. He spoke like a pirate. It was just fantastic. It was such a great theme.
Those were good times.
They really were.
It was all inspired by this pirate metal band called Ailstorm. I was really at the time into pirates. I mean, still am. And I saw the chance to do something I actually thought hadn't been done, and do pirate fashion Souls, but apparently it had been done, and I just
that is internet capitalism.
Yeah.
Seeing a need and filling it. I mean, honestly, if I knew you guys were so inspired by Mike in the first place, I wouldn't have invited you on here.
Yeah, we're just here to beef him up and make him feel good about himself.
Right.
This is mostly just for fluffing up Blue, right?
Yeah, this has kind of gotten a little off topic. This is uncomfortable.
We're here for brownie points.
But now that we are here, we have a lot to talk about. So let's jump right in. Because we all collectively paid our free game together, and what an experience that was. We'll talk about our individual thoughts here. But our free game for this month was Dungeon Defenders 2, and we played it on PS4, and I think we have a lot to say about it.
I'd say.
Did anybody, first of all, after we played our session, which I think was about 2.5, 3 hours, did anybody play any additional time after that?
I did. I did. I played for about another hour that night. I kept playing with the campaign with some randoms.
Bravo.
Is that any better?
Did your opinion of the game change now that you didn't have to hear us, or?
Well, do you want me to start and talk about the game, or
let's jump right into it.
Okay. So here's the thing, and I know that everyone is going to have the same complaint, so I'm going to gloss over that and let our guests talk about that, because it was a huge issue. Because one of the big things about a game is how accessible is it? How easy is it for you to just jump in a game and begin enjoying? I mean, it's a game after all. It should be about the entertainment value. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I'll let other people touch on that. For me, I really do like tower defense games, and I love cooperative tower defense games. One of my favorite games was Orcs Must Die, and they came out with one earlier this year. It's a free-to-play where it was cooperative, and basically it's horde mode, so you have these enemies coming from different angles, and you set up different towers and blockades, and you have to funnel enemies to keep them from destroying an objective. I've always had fun with those, going back to, and I know we actually referenced this game while we were playing, Bloons.
Yeah.
And Stone, you said everyone has played Bloons, and if you haven't, addictinggames.com, just search for Bloons, Bloons. There's so many different iterations.
I think it's on mobile too.
And is it really?
It's on
downloading it
now.
right now.
Yeah.
But it's just always been a fun, very simplistic concept for a game, and now that we have all these, obviously, 3D games, and we have the ability to play online with each other, I just have a lot of fun with it. Some of the really cool takeaways that I enjoyed. So there's a multitude of classes. Now, this is a free-to-play game, which means that inevitably there are microtransactions. So it's a bit of a grind fest if you want to unlock other characters and skins and all these other things. But theoretically, if you play for a long time, you can earn everything just by playing the game. You can buy it with real money and get it a lot faster. So and maybe later in a few minutes we can talk about the idea of free to play versus pay to win. But in my opinion, anything that allows me to earn everything in game, no matter how long it takes, is not pay to win. It might be severely inconvenient, but it's not pay to win. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you can create all these different characters with whatever classes are currently available, and during the game, you can literally swap on the fly. And I thought that was a neat touch. I've never seen that before. But you could be playing as the Knight Warrior class and tanking, but then all of a sudden you realize there's some enemies far away. You need to switch to DPS and start taking them out quickly. And just with the touch of a D-pad, you can instantly change. Not to mention your abilities change, which makes sense, but also the traps and the towers you have available change. So I found myself playing as the Archer class quite a lot, which I thought was just a really fun class to play, but her traps were terrible.
Yeah.
So I would switch to the mage or the warrior to set up my traps, and then when it came time to the combat phase, I would switch back to the archer and just DPS my way that way. So I appreciated that. The maps were honestly pretty small and very a bit tight. And for up to a 4-player co-op, it got really, really hectic really quickly, and it didn't allow for as much diversity and strategy as something like Orcs Must Die did. So overall, I enjoyed it, and that's why I did actually keep playing while while everyone had already stopped. But it did leave a lot to be desired. But again, with a free-to-play game, I typically have a little bit more lenience.
Yeah.
So that's what I have.
Yeah. I know Casey's been dying to share his opinions on this one. Casey, why don't you tell us about this game from your perspective?
All right, sounds good. So I don't have the love for tower defense like Blue has here, but so going into it, I was already a little negative on tower defense games. But playing with you guys is fun. We had fun banter and all that stuff, but immediately turned off by how long it took in that lobby. We spent an hour trying to invite Adam and Blue into one single party just to start playing.
Yeah, before you keep going, let's kind of explain the party system. So you can have 4 people in your party. You can set up a private tavern to invite your team in and then start those missions. Now we spend, like Casey said, close to an hour, if not an hour itself, trying to get everyone in the same system because there's no invite button.
Yep.
You have to find your friends on your PlayStation menu and then hit join game. And if you were lucky enough for that to work, then you all got into the private tavern. So for all the time it took us to get into the private tavern and do all the silly tutorial stuff, when we actually chose a mission, it didn't matter if you were all in the private tavern because you had to create a whole new game from that point anyway. So all of that time we spent setting it up was then wasted for us to find a game that we weren't even sure we all joined together. So it took a long time to even set it up. So that's where Casey's coming from. But continue then.
Yeah, to be honest, I would have turned it off if it wasn't for the podcast. Like, as soon as it took that long, that game would have been uninstalled. Like, that's how long and frustrating it was just to get in there.
Sure. Yeah.
But as far as the characters, I think there's a good diverse character. Like I said, I wish there was more unlocked from the beginning. There's 4 or 5 maybe. So there's some really cool characters that I just don't have the time or desire to grind to unlock. But I agree with Blue. The ability to switch between them was fun. I didn't do that too much. I was kind of stuck with the Knight, which just also leads to a side question. The chests at the end, you would get rewards and stuff. I wonder how switching a character actually altered those, because they were kind of tailored towards whatever character to open them, maybe?
No, I didn't find that experience. When I opened the chest, it wasn't really weighed heavily in one character or the other.
Okay, so mine was.
I guess, hold on, I'm going to back up on that, because I realized I never played the monk, and I almost never got monk
I always
items.
got Knight. Yeah.
Yeah, but I switch pretty frequently between the Knight and the Archer, so maybe that's why I thought there was more diversity.
Maybe it's like
but
a percentage of time you're in a character, and that's what it's based off of.
Yeah,
just a
you
thought.
played the Knight almost exclusively.
Yeah, yep. So the graphics are, for a free game, you can't complain. The graphics are fine. Controls, pretty simple. They were right on screen. Triangle to place this trap, circle to place that trap, whatever. I had some troubles getting rid of a trap. If I, chosen to start setting it down, to actually, get out of that, I would end up actually just placing it down. But then again, you can sell the trap for the same price it cost. So really, it balanced it out there. Music and sound, to be honest, I never even heard music, or like it didn't even occur to me that there was any spectacular music going on. Was I wrong there? I didn't hear it.
It was all menu music to me.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing
absolutely.
was just pretty much what I would hear in a menu.
And then the environment, the maps were garbage, to be completely honest. They were a 4x4 block. As soon as they started spawning, it was chaos. There was no strategy. You couldn't feed them in like a normal tower defense game and set up traps. It was just place as many traps on this spawn point so they die.
To be fair, that might have been because I was going around messing up,
Oh my god.
crucial areas
No,
in the map.
even with that, it was just chaos from the beginning because it was so small.
I will say, as undoubtedly the worst player at that game of our foursome, I did not enjoy Dungeon Defenders 2 all that much. I would probably reiterate a lot of the stuff that Casey has already said. Actually, in the first place, I'm pretty sure that was my first tower defense game I've ever played. Never really tried the genre before. And already, the long invite system. I think, so on the whole, if I were to sum it up in just a few short sentences, I would say Dungeon Defenders 2, worth it to play? Absolutely. It's free, if it's free. With the asterisk of, maybe have like an instruction manual on how to get into a lobby with your friends. And then, or even just after you get into the first lobby, now you know what you're doing. The rest of the time when you meet up with your friends or whoever online, it's going to be, easy enough. As a free game, I think it had enough to offer. Like I said, I haven't played tower defense games before, but I think, the characters, I think it was, 4 or 5 to start. So plenty of characters to switch between, plenty of different upgrades, weapons, items to try. And I don't know. I also didn't really hear much of the music or anything like that, but graphics, environment, like how it looked, I think overall was like aesthetically pleasing. I wouldn't say amazing, but yeah, I think overall, I think it was it's worth it if you're into the genre of tower defense.
Yeah.
But I guess I personally did not enjoy it, not only because I sucked at it, but because I really couldn't figure out what I was doing for the most part.
And I would say that it's a nice game that you can just pick up, play for 20 minutes, and then put down. But the problem is if it takes you an hour to get into, that might not really be the case.
Yeah, so, I mean, my thoughts on the game echo pretty much what everyone else said here. But I think that the two big things I want to hit on are what everyone said. There's not a lot of strategy involved, and that's what gets me. The reason it's not a good tower defense game, and Adam, I'm sorry that this was your first, is because there's almost no strategy. Like Casey said, you put your traps at the spawn, and that's that. And when it's not that, it's just chaos. And it's not even organized chaos, it just kind of happens. Like, playing as a unit isn't really a thing, because you can do whatever you want, and that just, you'll win the match the same. Whether you planned everything out, or you planned nothing. Or you place traps like Adam. It can still happen. Like, you can still win.
I was going to say, that's clear given my contribution or lack thereof to the matches.
I'm also aware it wasn't easy to play with because I was yelling at Adam most of the time. And we are actually, I'm editing the footage and putting it on the YouTube if you guys would like to see it. Some of the chat will probably be removed. But,
no thanks to
that's going to be up.
Drinking Souls crew.
Yeah, on the YouTube. Forgot to save.
Not safe for work.
But the other thing is that this game, I played the first one, and I really remember enjoying the first one on the 360. It was a tower defense game with some cool like horde mode thrown in that you got from like Gears of War, which was popular at the time, with these unique, different, like stereotypical RPG classes. But this one really, really, really failed to live up to it. This was essentially like a mobile version of your favorite game that claims to continue the story but has nothing to do with your favorite game. So, like, this, to call it Dungeon Defenders 2 for me was a little upsetting, and like not even playing with 3 friends could save a game meant for 4-person cooperative play. And I think that is where it falls short. This game should be multiplayer centric. It should be easy to jump in with your friends, and it should be strategic that when I'm yelling at Adam, it's more fun for both of us than me
Exactly.
just being a jerk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's true. I mean, as much as I dislike the game, I had a blast playing with you guys. So if you get a good group together, it's not like it's not fun. We still had a blast for 3 hours playing,
Right.
even though the game was not our best. That could be just the group of people that we played with. So, I mean, if you have some good friends, it could still be worth playing. Start some conversation, some arguments.
So
I
sorry.
I have one question, and please, Adam and Casey, this is for you guys because we've talked about it kind of extensively. So one of the reasons why we do free game once a month and then, of course, our regular game is because I find it interesting to compare and contrast the mindset of how do we treat the value of a game when you didn't actually put any money into it. So if you guys could just take a few seconds each and tell me, how do you first off, have you ever played any other free-to-play games before? And if so, how do you see the entertainment value of that compared to a game that you just dropped $20, $30, $40, or even $60 on? Do you weigh it? Do you judge it the same way? Or are you more easygoing on it? What do you think?
I guess I'll go first. Sorry. So I was actually laughing because the one game I know that Casey and I have played together that was free is Drawn to Death, and I know for a fact that he hates that game.
That's the genre.
I remember that stream.
Yeah, that was a good stream. So, yeah, I guess that's an interesting question, and I actually never thought about that. And maybe that's a good thing because I never. I don't think there is any bias for me looking at a game, even if it was free, versus me paying, or spending money on any games. I'll go ahead and say it now that I don't spend $60 on brand new games, and I would wait for any new game to come down to about $20 before I would buy it, just because there are so many games out there that I have yet to play, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe it's, from $0 to $60 isn't the right category for me, but even still. I think, I don't know, I think for Dungeon Defenders 2 specifically, I wasn't judging it hard because it was a free game. I don't think it was bad at all because it was a free game. I don't think it's, that much better just because it's a free game, but, yeah, I guess that's a very difficult question to answer, and I think my answer is I don't think I put any bias on it. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay,
That's great. Yeah.
Right. And I probably a little different. I put almost no bias into a free game. I go in with an open mind. I'll download any free game and try it, but I'll critique it the same, I think. But at the end of the day, it's free. I can't get mad at it long term. I just will uninstall it and call it a day. Like every PS4 game, I'll download free and try it, and then, okay, that was bad. And we can have conversations about how bad it was, but you can't get mad at it. You didn't pay anything for it, right? You chose to download it. It was free. It's a bad game, sure, but hey, you didn't lose anything except time, I guess.
The wrench in, just to make you guys think, it's not really attacking anyone, but there is an investment of your own time. For example, we spent an hour doing nothing trying to set this game up.
Sure.
So really, how do you put a value on your time? I don't know. Thinking about how much time you put into it just to make the determination, I do or do not like this. Would that sway your opinion at all?
I mean, it's frustrating, but no, monetary is usually how I would view a game because I'm going to put time into a game no matter what.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm not going to play a game, whether it's free or not. So time, it would have happened either way. But if I didn't lose something physical, I guess maybe that's the way I think about it.
I
Cool.
think if I were on my own for an hour trying to get into the game that I just downloaded for free, I would say no, forget this.
I wouldn't have lasted an hour. It would have been like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
That is fair. And I was worried that was going to be our experience because the day before, if not 2 days before, I wanted to jump on and do a match just to see what it was like before we all played. And I ended up hitting find a match and walked away, cleaned the apartment, came back about 40 minutes later, and it was still saying
You
searching.
tried
So
to do us dirty and play the game before us.
I was like,
Wow,
oh, what's this
Blue,
game? As I
wow.
expertly manage all the math.
I don't have
these.
all the characters.
Blue wasn't that good, don't listen.
I really wasn't.
So final thoughts on Dungeon Defenders 2. Two things. Do you plan on continuing to play it? And would you recommend other people try it? Let's go down the line. Mike, you first.
So I would recommend people play it because, again, it is a free game. All it takes is some time to download it, some space on your hard drive, and then time to get into a game. So it's worth trying. Will I keep playing it? I probably will every now and then, just to kind of see if the gameplay gets more interesting the more classes I unlock. But I will say this, Terraria does Dungeon Defenders 2 better than Dungeon Defenders 2 does. So
I forgot.
if you have Terraria, they did a crossover. You can now do a tower defense game in Terraria, and it's actually a lot more fun.
Adam?
So I would say, I think that, what were the two questions? Am I going to continue and would I recommend it? Those were it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to the first question, no, I don't plan on continuing any gameplay in it. Would I recommend it? I would say yes, only if there's not already a tower defense game out there that you already enjoy playing that maybe you've paid for, or even if it's free, something that you've already been playing regularly. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
And those probably echo mine. It's going to get uninstalled as soon as this month of podcast is over. But yeah, right, download it, play with some friends. I wouldn't play it solo. There's no way I could have got through anything solo. So find some good friends and have fun with it. Argue, fight, laugh. That's the only way I'd recommend it. Yeah.
Do a podcast.
It's also worth noting, before we played this game, had to wait for a 10 gigabyte update.
Yep.
Have we not talked about that? We waited for an
Forgot
insanely
about that.
big update for a free game.
That's right.
So not only do we have that time sink of waiting an hour to play and then playing for 2.5, 3 hours, we also had all the update time before that. And depending on your wireless connection, that could take you like a whole day to start playing this game.
I don't even know what they updated. I can't even.
Yeah, neither do I.
What?
It
Probably
didn't
the
get better.
gleam off of the monk's forehead. I think that's what it was.
10 gigs. He's a big character file.
It's a lot of waxing.
All right. So I think that closed the book on Dungeon Defenders 2. Overall, mixed to bad reviews from us. But if it's something that interests you, if you like what anyone said here, go ahead and try it yourself. Honestly, for a first tower defense game, like Blue said, just try out Bloons. You'll probably like that better if you ask me. But we have been kind of waiting for this main game. I think by we, I mean Mike. Because this is a big one for you.
So excited.
Now, normally we talk about the development and reception of this game, but I think, honestly, it's more important to just talk about the reception, because the development was the development of every other game. Yes, it was a new IP, so that's a big deal. There's a lot more that goes into creating a brand new IP, but overall, there weren't any super exciting stories. The only thing, and I think we'll just talk about this in gameplay later, so I won't even really mention it. But there was one kind of unique factor in creating it. But I think that shows through enough that we'll talk about it. But Mike, you were fully invested in the hype. I think we were still working together when this game came out. So I think, is it safe to say that you bought this because of the hype?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I won't even sugarcoat it. I got sucked in. So this was first shown in, 2011? So it began development in 2009. 2011 is when we got the very first glimpse of what this game would be. And we really didn't even know, other than we knew it was going to be post-apocalyptic. But the more I saw about it, the more I read about it. And I'm going to talk about, for me especially, why this game is so exciting, and I promise you it's super nerdy. But yeah, I followed it for, when did it come out? In 2013?
13.
Summer of 13, yeah. So for 2 years, I got my hands on every single article I could to read about what this game was going to entail. And I'll just tell you right now, spoiler alert, I was not disappointed even a little bit. So we're going to talk about details, but I'm going to tell you, and to give you an idea of how much I enjoyed this game, I sat down, so I beat it in 2 sessions. I played it on normal, which isn't my typical. I do try to go for one of the more difficult settings at first, just because I do enjoy that challenge. But there was something about this game where I knew I wanted to experience it more for the characters and the story than anything else. So I played on normal, which isn't too terribly difficult. There's a couple of points where there's a big spike. But I beat it in 2 settings, and let me tell you, when the credits rolled for that first time, I sat there, I was by myself, it was a dark room, it was late at night, I had just marathoned it for at least 5 hours, And I sat there in stunned silence, just completely staring. I watched the entire credits roll. I listened to the music play. And then as soon as the main menu came up again, I hit start and I started right then and there. I wanted to jump right back into that world and get back to the characters that I had grown to love over the last 12 or so hours or 15 hours. I couldn't wait. I literally got right back into the game. If that doesn't tell you my overall impressions on this game, I really don't know what would.
So, I mean, the first question we ask all the time. Obviously, Mike, you've beaten it, but for this playthrough, how much have you played?
So for this playthrough, I think my hour count is about 6.5 hours. But now that this is actually my third time through, and this is the first time going all the way through it on the PS4 Remastered Edition, but I am playing on grounded difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty, but then they amped it up a notch by taking away the ability to, and I'm going to do air quotes here, listen to your surroundings, which ultimately means you could see through walls and you could see enemy outlines so you knew where they were, since there's a lot of sneaking areas. So at this point, you really are completely reliant on true line of sight and sounds in order to get by. And let me tell you, oh my God, is it rough. So I'm about, I don't have the chapter list in front of me, but I am just getting to Pittsburgh now, which I would say is probably like the first act is behind me.
Yeah, I think that's the end of the first act, as far as my understanding. Adam, what are you looking like?
Right, yeah, so I had beaten it probably 2 or 3 years ago. Played the full game through. At this point, I am just to the part where Joel gets attacked as he's climbing a ladder. I'm not sure what the area is. I think it's right after the hotel or near the end of the hotel. But Joe gets attacked while he's climbing a ladder, and Ellie saves him.
Okay, yep.
All right, so that's still in Pittsburgh. Yeah, you're not at the bridge yet. So yeah, you were close
exactly
to Mike.
Right. I was making my way to the bridge. Yeah.
So are you also playing on a hard difficulty? Or are you just trying to experience the story again? Where are you at?
I'm not on the 2 hardest difficulties. I think I'm just on hard, which still gives you the sensibility and plenty of ammo and supplies. So I don't think it's difficult by any means. So I am replaying it more for the story. Actually, when I first played the game, I remember I picked it up right after I started grad school, and I think that's what caused me to stop playing the game midway through. I don't remember what it was exactly, but somewhere along the line, I think I got too busy, and I actually stopped playing the game probably for a month or 2. And then when I picked it back up, I actually felt really disconnected from the story, but I still loved the gameplay so much, and the story kind of grew on me, over time again, and I finished it. So at this point, I want to replay it. I want to experience the entire thing from start to finish in one setting, and re-experience the story.
Cool. So, I'm going to jump in again real quick just because Adam just went. So, it's interesting that Stone chose me and Adam, although I think that's just the order we've been going in. But to give you guys an idea, we talk about this podcast as being a chance to go play games that we always wanted to, never got to. That doesn't always mean neither of us have never played the game. For example, we have done Undertale and Shadow of Mordor, where I had no experience, but Stone had some. In this case, this 4-person podcast, Adam and I have played through the game completely, and now we're going through it again, whereas Stone and KC, you guys both started it but didn't get very far the first time around, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we have a really good balance of viewpoints. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're talking about Casey being lagged behind everyone, first of all, I guess we're talking about also what difficulty, but how far into the story you are, and about how much you think time you spent.
Okay, so I'm on normal difficulty. I just wanted to kind of get the chapter, because I've tried to play this game 3 times now. So I bought it for the PS3. Post-hype, I didn't know anything about it. Didn't finish it. And then I bought it once I first bought the PS4, put it down again, so this is the 3rd attempt. But I'm right in Pittsburgh after you meet Bill, like after you get past all his stuff.
Okay.
So what, 5 hours? That sounds about right?
You're probably an hour behind Blue and Adam, yeah.
Yeah, I'm at the point where sneaking is getting prevalent,
That's everything.
but that's for a later discussion. So
Yeah,
But-
yeah. And I think out of all of us, I'm the farthest. Now, I want to talk about the difficulty after this, but I think I'm about 7.5 hours in. I am on the campus. I just got there, and it's the fall, so I'm gonna make a move. But I want to talk about the difficulty because I have something really embarrassing to get off my chest. So I started
easy
this
mode.
game. I started this game a while ago, right? Like a long time. When they first remastered it on PS4, I'm like, I'm going to get into the hype. Oh, is everyone playing on PS4? Adam, I guess you're the one I'm unsure of.
Yes, actually, I did not have it on PS4, but luckily, small world, my girlfriend's roommate had it on disc, and I just happened to ask her for it last weekend, so I now have it on PS4
That's
for
great.
some amount of time. Yeah.
That's cool. So we're all playing on PS4, which is the remastered version. I picked it up when the remastered version came out because I was like, I have to. The hype, it stayed. If it sticks, then usually it has legs. The game is good. So I was like, all right, I'll buy into it. And the embarrassing part is that I'm really scared of games like this. I frighten very easily. And like zombie games and stuff make me uneasy. So there were often times, and like the atmosphere is just enough that you're always like ready for a jump scare, but then it never happens. So I'm like constantly tensed up. Like I can't just sit and play this game. So I was like, no matter what happens, I'm just gonna do the story. So I bumped it down to easy because the first time I played through, I didn't even like part ways with Tess in the beginning. Like I was still, when you've pretty much right after you get out of that crumbling building and like you're down in that subway with the clickers. That's like the farthest I made it the first time because I was too afraid to keep going.
Oh, wow.
I put on my big boy pants this time and a podcast and played through the beginning until I got into the hang of it.
So
that's
proud
great.
of you.
That's interesting. Actually, it is definitely a suspenseful game, but I actually never found myself being scared. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I enjoy scary movies. I enjoy horror games and stuff.
Yeah, it seems like I'm outnumbered with this crowd in that.
It seems like this game's more of a not in your face scary too. It's just kind of like you're alone and you're trying to sneak past all this horde or all these zombies. It's not like in your face with scares.
Right.
It's like it's subtle. That's the word I want. You got the clicking sounds. You got the crazy zombies that are making the noise and hunched over. It's just kind of everything together is creepy.
Well, yeah, and that's what I don't like because it's like that's too close to real life. Like I'm uneasy all the time. I don't want that in a game. That transfers too well.
Actually, talking about the noises and stuff, I don't know how much we can tangent or if we're trying to stick to more of some structured questions. But yeah, actually, that's one thing I will say. The noises in this game, I never realized just how much sound is a factor in this game. On the PS3, I always had good enough speakers coming from my TV, but I never had headphones on, and that makes a world of difference. And now playing through this game, it's like I'm hearing everything as it's meant to be heard, and it's like, everything from the things that are scary to the music that's beautiful, like the loading screen. I think the music on the loading screen is just therapeutic. Like I would put that on and just lay out and chill. But honestly, I think experiencing this game in the remastered version, like having headphones on, is making a world of difference. Maybe that actually does, edge it over to the scarier side because you can actually hear all the snarls and the little shuffles here and there.
Yeah, I got some like 5.1 surround headphones, and it's been going off. So I had to put on like a podcast or something to distract me. But before we go into any further into what we liked or don't liked, I thought we would do something fun with our guests that Mike and I tried a while ago, and I thought was kind of a blast. So let's test how well Casey and Adam know each other. Do you guys want to try the mind meld?
Sure. I think we might
I think we're gonna answer the same exact answers every time.
Do
We basically are, you know. Let me not elaborate on how close we are. Go ahead.
So I think this might be a little cheaty because I think Casey made it known. But Adam, first of all, do you think Casey liked or disliked the game as a whole right now, as of right now?
The Last of Us. I think as on the whole, he dislikes the game. I'll say that he already told me that. Just talk. Yeah.
Can you try and answer as Casey would answer?
All right.
Don't do it.
Hold on.
Do it.
Hold on. Give me a second. Let me go put my suspenders and cowboy boots on. There it is. Oh! Just found my straw hat. Thank you very kindly.
It's a hoedown.
I love you, man. You know I do. I think if that was a serious question, if I were to answer it exactly as Casey would, he would say, The Last of Us has an amazing story, but the gameplay is boring, and I can't stay in it just for the story, given that the gameplay is a big part of it.
Casey, is that accurate?
That's very close. I'm going to stay in it because the story's so good. So that's the only thing I would change there. The story is compelling enough where I'll keep playing it. Mm-hmm. But I don't enjoy the gameplay at all. I think it's rehashed hide and shoot. What's the word I want? What's the genre? Cover shoot.
Stealth.
Oh, okay.
Stealth.
Yeah, stealth shooting. Move to the next barrier, throw a thing, wait for them to come, shoot them.
Not on easy.
Yeah,
and not on grounded.
yeah, and maybe that's part of the problem. But the story is absolutely amazing. I don't know if we're talking about that now or.
Well, let's. Okay, so I think we can all just get it out of the way. We all think the story is great, right? Does anyone disagree with that?
No, but the level of
right.
the level of feeling you have for some of the characters, I guess, is what we could discuss later.
Right, we definitely will. I'm just saying, like, right now, let's talk about what you think Adam thought of it. So what do you think some of Adam's favorite points of the game are?
So knowing Adam, he loves this type of gameplay. I think he loves the story. I'm not sure he has the same connection that, I don't know, that I feel for it. That might be wrong, but I think he likes the gameplay is the main selling point of the story, or of the game. So
Adam?
Yeah, I would say that's more or less pretty accurate. I would actually put the gameplay just under the story in terms of like what I enjoy most about the game, because I actually I found myself getting a little emotional through some of the cutscenes, especially early on they hit you hard. But
I know
it's definitely my style of game in terms of gameplay for sure. I really like those kind of games where you can you distract somebody and then you go and take them out.
So, well, we know Casey doesn't like the game, but he does like the story. But what else do you think are Casey's like good points for the game?
I would say maybe Casey enjoys the graphics in the game. I mean, they were beautiful on the PS3, pushing the system to its limits for sure, and remastered. It's gorgeous. I would say maybe that's one thing he enjoyed about it. And another thing, maybe this is a reach, but maybe not. Casey has kids, and I mean, throughout the game, Joel is kind of like a father figure to Ellie, so maybe Casey kind of connects that way with, where he sees like there's this father figure that he's portraying in this game, and he's got somebody coming along with him, and she's sort of the daughter figure. So maybe that's something he enjoys as well.
Casey?
So first off, the graphics are by far one of the better qualities of the game. They're beautiful. Mm-hmm. Music is another one that the strong points of the game. I think the music and the timing of it is just perfect. And absolutely the father, the connection there. I don't know how it's going to go with him and Ellie down the line, whether he becomes more of a stronger father figure, because she's still kind of a rebel child at this point, I think, in the story. So if it turns the way I think it's going to turn, then that'll put the icing on the cake for me actually enjoying the game and being willing to play it.
Look at you kids slaying it.
So
I'd say that was
High
a
five.
pretty successful.
I'll save that talk that Adam brought up with the father figure and the story I have in personal life if it continues down that path for the next podcast.
Yeah, no, we will definitely we're definitely going to talk about that because I want to hear your opinion on that. Being the only father of all of us here.
Yeah. So yeah, let me finish the game and actually see if it goes the way I think it will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We can save that for the month's end discussion too. Now, Blue, Mike, do you want to
Yes.
You want to try this out? Because I feel like I have some good points for you. But,
Okay,
but you
yeah.
kind of gave one away early for me.
I know. You're gonna nail the 1 point, but that's okay because I will still nerd out afterwards and tell you like so many big scientific words. It's gonna blow your freaking mind.
Right.
Okay.
The biology.
I'm
is
ready
for
for
sure.
I'm ready for that.
So
You-
excited.
Get ready for real
I'm
questions.
so excited.
But
So mine, Mel, you and I.
yeah, let me do you first because you've beaten it, and I
Okay.
think you still might not have a sense for what I'm feeling on this
Okay.
game yet. But Adam said one that I think holds true for you: the music. So you are not usually a music guy. A lot of this is atmosphere, but when it's not, and when you're in the open world, it's a lot of kind of mellow guitar with long, drawn out chords. And I feel like that is kind of in your wheelhouse as far as the music goes. So I think that's something you probably appreciate it.
It really is. This is one of the few games where I can honestly say I would sit there and listen to the soundtrack.
I knew it. I heard. So when I was outside on the way to university, the music was playing, and I was like, I know Mike loves this music. I know that this is a big point for him, and it will never be in any other game. Like that will never
It's
be the
so
selling
true.
point for Mike, except in this game.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah, so what I had thought before the game released, because I didn't do much research after the fact, but pretty biologically accurate zombies, quote unquote, probably appealed to you, which we already know is the case. And you will talk about. You can be rest assured about that.
Nerd alert.
Hardcore nerd.
I don't know. I think everything else that you like is kind of all the things everyone likes about this game, period. The story, the character developments. I think you are someone that appreciates the horror genre, so the suspenseful, the environment you're in that we were talking about, where like the volume controls everything about this, and you are playing on the survivor mode because you like having that experience where only what you see and hear is available to you. You are surviving off your own wit, more or less. So I think that one was low-hanging fruit. I was really just excited I nailed the other two.
Yeah, the music thing especially, because you and I, every time we do the podcast, one of your outline points is music, and I just look and then think, was there music in that game? Oh, there was. Okay, yeah, I remember something like that. No, that was good. That was really good.
Yes.
I'm impressed, and you have kept this under such lock and key.
I think you're gonna have a problem,
Yeah.
but I'm ready.
Yeah.
Hit me.
Okay. So, let me go ahead and put it this way. I think that so far, I think you're enjoying the story for the story's sake. I think you probably have some similar taste for the gameplay in that I don't think you believe it's terrible, but I don't think you believe that it's really been genre defining. I don't think that you found anything particularly intriguing about the gameplay itself. It's just, it's there. It's almost a way of telling the story more so than it is of enjoying or entertaining yourself through a game. I think that's one of the things you would think about. I think that you do think that graphically it's rather appealing, although you're probably, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit underwhelmed seeing it on the PS4 because you know what that console is capable of, especially when we have games like Horizon Zero Dawn out there. So while it's good, it's not gonna, it's not gonna be the game that people remember the PS4 for. Now, the PS3, that's something else I'll talk about separately. But then as far as the characters, I think you probably really enjoy the characters. In fact, I think you might really enjoy Ellie because she is young, she is female, she is strong, she is independent, and she is going to be a survivor for the foreseeable future. So she has been put in this horrific world. She already has this terrible thing that has been done to her, and yet she perseveres, and yet she sees a goal. She sees her own fate at the end of it, and whatever that might be, she's okay. She's gonna keep pushing towards it. So that's without hearing anything you've said about the game. That's what I think you think.
Yeah. I hate you. That was all like dead on. Like halfway through you talking about the graphics, I just like had this stupid smirk because that was exactly the case. And like you brought up Ellie, we will talk about it. But yeah, having the way the female characters are portrayed in this is a super big deal to me. And I hate how insanely accurate that was. But yeah, I think across the board, everyone a little golf clap for yourself because I think we all did pretty well.
That was fantastically
Yeah.
successful.
Now guess what I'm wearing?
Pokemon T-shirt.
Wrong. Pierce the Veil.
That T-shirt that I gave you after I wore it for a week.
Smells good.
I still
Did you
have
say
a
it's Pierce
shirt.
the Veil? Okay, so it is that one.
I still have a shirt with our face on it, actually.
Oh God, so do I. Let's not ever
Should
talk
Casey
about
and I
why
leave the
that even is a
podcast
thing.
right now, or
Do we need to leave?
Shut
Give
up,
you guys a
shut
minute?
up. We only paid you for 30 minutes.
And cue the Barry Manilow. But not romantic Barry
No,
Manilow,
of
more
course
like
not.
Copacabana.
there it
Chicka
is.
wow
Okay,
wow.
so we have a lot of really good, unique points to discuss. And I think what we're going to spend the most time talking about is a story without a doubt.
Oh, God, yeah.
So let's just start there. And I think, like we said, I think Casey has the most interesting perspective on this. So Casey, why don't you just, no holds, but no spoilers, go through the story. Well, I guess you can't really spoil it.
what's a
anything
no
because you're not-
spoiler?
you're
Yeah,
not
he's the
super
furthest behind. How is he going to spoil it for
just
us?
because he knows things, I don't know. I couldn't save that. But Casey, why don't you go ahead?
All right. So right off the bat, just the father-daughter connection that I have personally with why am I Sarah? Is that correct? Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah, the very
His,
beginning.
his actual daughter. It's just awesome. He gets home. She's kind of feisty with him, joking with him. Gets him a gift even though he
She
doesn't want
sells
it.
hardcore drugs.
Yeah,
He
it's
sells
just
hardcore drugs.
it's so awesome. And then you wake up and you have to find him, and you immediately get this tense feeling that he's actually the one hurt. Because I went into it not knowing who the main, besides what was on the picture, who the main character was.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's that whole scene, the tenseness that you knew something bad was going to happen once they left the house and they went on their way. They found the uncle and they're driving away. Just being able to look around, you're just building tense. You know someone's dying. Mm-hmm. It's I'm getting goosebumps talking about it.
Yeah.
But and then you see the officer there, the gas mask guy. I can't remember what company it's for. What government guy is what I call him. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, crap. That's probably the most emotional I've felt for a storyline so early in the game. It's just like even talking about it, it's like holy crap! Like how real it was when he called her baby girl and held her and said, "I'm gonna pick you up," and not that it was gonna be okay, that he knew it hurt.
Yeah.
It was like, holy crap! What am I?
Oh my God, I'm actually getting worked
Like,
up right now. Like
so I
no
will-
joke.
I will also say when I started this game, like I said, I started it. I tried to play it before, and when I did, my girlfriend was watching me, and then I told her about we're playing The Last of Us for the podcast, and I sat down and she started to watch me play, and she goes, "No, I'm not watching the beginning of this game. I remember this."
Yeah, it's just so heart wrenching. I think that's for everybody. I don't think it's unique to me. It can't be, because they just did such a good job. They didn't sugarcoat it. There was no, it's going to be okay, and cliche lines like that. It was pure raw, probably how I would react.
It was humans acting like humans, right?
And that's probably the worst and best part about it.
Tear the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, and it's just, and then it's like immediately goes to 20 years later. You know nothing of his pain throughout there. Besides that, it was great. Am I going to continue on throughout all the characters, to where I am? Is that the point?
Could I actually jump in to say two quick things about that opening
Sure.
and why it was so effective, in my opinion? So you're absolutely right. Every point you made, and while you're talking about it, I'm sitting here
I got goosebumps.
in silence thinking about what just happened. But I think two things made it so impactful. Number one, especially for someone like me who watched and read everything he could with this game leading up to it, you start the game you meet Sarah, and you even start playing as Sarah, but then I start thinking about all the trailers, and I think, wait, who is this?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I've never seen her in a trailer. I've never seen her in any promotional, and then all of a sudden, this feeling of dread, like,
Like immediate.
Sarah's not going to be around. And that really hit me when I was first playing, and so I took my time. I explored the house, and I looked at the notes that were left and listened to the voicemails, and I just knew in the back of my head, Sarah doesn't make it for much longer. But then even more so than Joel holding her while she is bleeding out in his arms, more so than that, what hurt me the most was when you realized what had happened, and it wasn't because you saw it happen. You didn't see Sarah get shot. You don't see Joel realize it. You see Joel's brother Tommy look with just this feel, like these dead eyes, like, oh my God, they hit Sarah.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that scene. Joel is looking up at his brother Tommy, and Tommy is just like, he almost wants to say, Joel, don't look.
Right.
And it's at that point you realize Sarah was hit, and Sarah's going to die right here and now. And that's how the story unfolds. And those two pieces together hit me like a ton of bricks when I first played this.
Yeah.
Something else I think is really cool about the beginning that is not sad is that when you first take control of Sarah, you actually see a mirror in her room. And I think that's a big deal because in games on the PS3 like this, when you program a mirror into it, you actually have to have a second character that you're actually seeing run around with the exact same movements as you. So it's actually when we started out and we played as Sarah that I started thinking about how they were pushing the technology on the PS3. So I did not think she stuck around, again, because she's not on the cover. But I started thinking, this is a big deal game. Just from that little bit, I know it's so silly because you don't really see a mirror any other time in the game. Like, it's not reflected at all. So you could tell even for such a minor part, they put a lot of care into this character and got you attached to her pretty quickly, even though she's not in for the long haul.
That's pretty brilliant. I didn't know that, actually,
I didn't either.
about having a second character. Actually, one thing I want to maybe state and then ask everybody is, like, how, I mean, I went into it completely oblivious to it. You know, Ellie's on the cover, not Sarah, and I didn't even think twice about it. So when I saw Sarah die, it hit me, and I actually wanted to cry. I felt myself, you know, like getting goosebumps, that shivering feeling from head to toe. I got that. And how is that possible from a game after only, 15, 20 minutes in the game? How do they do that?
It was real. Because you could relate to how he reacted. It wasn't fake, cliche, normal stuff you see in horror movies and drama movies. It was real. Yeah. That's what I think.
I think, I guess they just captured the response, the reaction that you would have in life, in real life, with that kind of scenario.
And that's something that Naughty Dog is just known far and wide for, is just capturing that human emotion and developing characters that truly are people, for lack of a better word. Yes, they're characters, they're not real, but they are about as real as it gets when it comes to a video game.
Right. And that doesn't drop after that first 15 minutes. This game is all dependent on how people treat each other and survive in this post-apocalyptic world. And it's so important. And what I was saying earlier, there's not much talked about in the development. Well, in development, the one thing they said is we wanted to build a game about the relationship between two characters. And the relationship was so important that it wasn't originally planned like, oh, you're going to play as this man having an attachment to this girl who could be his daughter figure. They chose the best character for the story itself. In fact, there was a lot of debate, apparently, that Tess could have been the main character and it'd still be just as good. They just made the best characters personality first and fit the gender later. So I think that's also really important to the story. And that's why we have such good characters. They're not checking off characters off of a list, like they should look like this, they should feel like this, they should sound like this. They said, what kind of person would exist in this world and how would they react to these other people we've built in this world? And I think that's really important.
I may disagree on a couple of those characters, but yeah, for the most part, that beginning stuff, I agree with.
Right, and the beginning is filled with a few more like fill in because the world needs to seem more lived in than it is. But I think once you get to the outskirts, like you're on your, I mean, you just met Bill and you're on your way to Pittsburgh, so
We got past Bill. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're starting to see the characters that are definitely fleshed out and have more personality than the kind of you're starting the game, people exist, just keep going.
That's where I might disagree. I think Tess and Bill are some of the worst in there.
Really?
Because I think Tess follows that mold of it, like, because Ellie or Sarah and Joel just are so defining, at least that little bit, and then you immediately get into Tess, who's overly strong. Not like they build her up way more than I think she's. I know she's rough around the edges, of course, kind of, you know, that feel, but she had the immediate. I don't know. I'm trying to articulate how this should go. I thought she followed the script of like a horror movie, zombie apocalypse character.
Really?
She was a she was a strong.
I can see that.
Yeah, I had no feeling when she died. No.
Spoilers.
I can. I don't know that I necessarily agree to the same extent, but I can see it, and I can see her. She is very, very strong, and I think she had to be, but she does feel a little bit one-dimensional when you put it that way.
Yeah, there's no emotion in her face, even like the character development, like in the graphics. Like Joel, like it was written across his face, his grief and his feelings, where she was just overly strong. Like they tried to do that too much.
I definitely disagree there. And I everything you're saying has complete merit, and I totally understand your point of view.
But
there.
you're wrong.
But yeah, get off the show.
But yeah, you're dead.
No, I think what's important about Tess is the same thing reflected in Joel. They both clearly have a closed-off history, and there's so many moments where you can see that they're about to talk about it, or she is picking up on something, that I think she's a really good character because of so much that's unsaid for her. And I think it's really cool to have, you know, a really strong character, like you said, that is kind of the boss, but in such a small operation. And you can tell that she cares for Joel. Their relationship is really unique, but not in a way that you would conventionally care for somebody. You know, she could still be completely closed off to him, but still, you know, be concerned for his safety. And they say stuff like, you know, don't get yourself killed and stuff like that. And they act like they're cold to each other, but I think there's a lot more layers to it. And I think she seems like just a blank canvas and like emotionless, just stone faced the whole time. But I feel like during the whole thing, there was a lot more to her, and you could see in her the internal conflict to me. And I could see why you would think, you know, she's a stereotypical, like, this character appears in The Walking Dead all the time. We've gotten this before. But that's just my opinion.
Casey, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
And I apologize. I missed it when you said it earlier. How far have you played? Because you've met Bill. Have you left Bill yet?
Yeah.
You did? Okay.
I feel the same thing about Bill.
And that actually surprises me, because I think Bill is a very layered character,
right,
in this game.
Yes, but he's still. I don't know. It's just that it fits a mold to this genre. It's that
I actually, so I completely forgot about Bill, like from my last playthrough. And I mean, it's probably been 2 or 3 years since I played the game. But replaying it now, I actually found myself feeling really sorry for Bill after leaving him. Right, so as you know, Joel finds this note that's from Bill's partner, right, and his partner actually says he would rather
Frank,
thank you. He would rather go and potentially die and spend time around the infected than spend another day with Bill, and. You know, Bill's reaction to that is just like, you know, he's playing, you know, I wanted to use a word that I can't use on the podcast. You know, he's playing the tough guy and he's acting like he's okay, but you can see deep down he's like, I mean, just think about it. If you had one person that was with you in this horrible situation, and that you find out that one person hated your guts. You have literally nobody else.
Well, and it's even more than that.
It is more than that.
Because Bill is the first LGBT character that we see. And I think that's really important because that his partner wasn't just like a partner that he existed with in this, apocalypse. It was like his lover. So something must have happened that, I hate your guts. I never want to see you again. I would rather die. It's just really telling, and there's a lot of complexity there. When I first met Bill and you introduced him as like the crazy trap guy, I thought like KC did, like, oh, here's just another like apocalypse stereotype. But the farther you go with him, how concerned he is for himself, and it's like, this guy's a jerk. Why am I even with him? And then you see, oh, this is why he's so closed off. And I don't know if you found the note that Frank had left for him, but you can give that note to him, and it's even Joel feels sorry for him, and Joel doesn't often put out the olive branch. So it is a really big deal. And I think it was really, really spectacular to see an LGBT character treated so perfectly. They are just another person living in this terrible, terrible situation that lost everything. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't want to say it's necessarily subtle. I mean, obviously, Bill never comes out and says, this was my lover. But when you see him look at Frank and his hanging body,
you can tell.
And
well, did you see the pictures on the refrigerator?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you explore, you can see things. Obviously, you see his magazine, then you see Ellie reading his magazine. But yeah, it's really that face when he sees Frank and he tries to act all tough, like, oh, this, SOB and this and that. But there's so much pain in his face when he sees that it's Frank. Mm-hmm. It was tough. That was tough.
And to be honest, I think I rushed this second playthrough that area quicker than maybe I should have. I missed some of this.
And we're not trying to convince you otherwise.
No, but I rushed through that part. So yeah, maybe something I'll have to go back and look at, because I'm not saying I'm insensitive, that I missed on those cues, but he immediately turns you off as a character. Like he's just so everything you don't like as a character up front.
He's arrogant.
That I closed off to anything afterward, and I just wanted to get out of his storyline.
And I think it's important that KC said that, because if you didn't take the time to explore the game, that's fine. He's still clearly enjoying the story, but
I just wanted to rush out of his story. Is kind of like that was my mindset the whole time. As soon as I met him,
just get it over with.
Well, I didn't like him, and that's like your first impression sticks, and I just kind of didn't pick up on his story.
Yeah,
and he still doesn't leave you with a good taste in your mouth, because as you're leaving, he looks at Joel and says, "So we square?"
Yeah.
Joel says, "Yeah, we're square." And then he says, "Then get the F out of my town." And at that point, you can tell Bill is going to be alone for the rest of his life, however short it may be.
Right.
And that's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
And also, another thing, you're just learning the true controls of the game there. Like that whole town area.
Yes.
Like you're learning sneaking, and you're learning clickers and how everything reacts. So it's just
distractions and traps. Yeah, you learn it all.
It's intense. Like learning all that and trying not to die, and then as well as picking up on these subtle stories. It's a lot the first playthrough, and this is probably about my first time through this part, rushing, and then all this stuff is. I'll have to go back and do that. Now that you guys said all the stuff I can find.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to see the distinction between taking the extra time to learn the story and just going through it. And either way, so far, it's been a pretty enjoyable experience. Strictly story-wise, obviously we differ on the gameplay. But I mean, you can see, Casey in contrast still is enjoying the story, even though he didn't take the time to find those extras. And that's totally fine. However you play this game is how you're going to experience it. And you can still enjoy it both ways. And
like the beginning, I explored the whole house because I love that area. So it's not, it's just certain characters I feel like you rush.
Yeah.
All right. Am I continuing on to where I'm at, or we move? I don't know.
Keep going. Yeah.
So I got up to like right as Tess, left us. We got through the build. I don't know, spoilers.
No,
I've already played it. That's it.
Oh, that was hard to look at.
When Tess finally went her own merry way,
I had a hard time looking at that, honestly.
At her dying?
Yeah, when you walk up to the second floor and
Oh,
you see
yeah.
the SWAT members moving in and she's just laying there and her like blood's pooling out.
Yeah.
That was hard to see.
Yep. And I mean, that was a good cutscene. It again followed the prototypical "I've hidden the bite from you" that zombie games follow, which I just for everything else this game genre defined, it followed certain things that I think they could have gone a different way. I don't know what that way could have been, but
I think, I agree. That is definitely a trope from the zombie genre. I think it was kind of nice in the fact that it almost required her to get bit and realize that she was going to die to realize the importance of Ellie. Instead of just seeing her as an item and something that they had to bring from A to B, it showed the importance of this individual as a person and just how vital it's going to be to humanity, really, overall. So, yes, it was a trope, but I do think it was used effectively.
they could.
To Casey's credit as far as that being a trope, and I agree, it is a silly trope that needs to go away in zombie movies, but Tess was originally written to become the villain. She was going to like betray you somehow, but they couldn't find a good enough way to write it, so they went with another corny thing instead. And overall, I'd rather her have gotten bitten and have that silliness than actually be like, and now I'm the bad guy, and then point a gun at you or something, you know?
Or even if they had done something, that's still kind of a trope, but had those SWAT members come in and them get into a standoff and them realizing someone had to sacrifice himself in order for Ellie to get out.
Right.
Even that's enough of a turn that I think I would have liked it. It's just the zombie movie, bitten, hide it, dead. That's what I guess turned me off a little bit from it. But I mean, it was a great scene. You went up there. It was sad to look down at her body and him trying to tell Ellie to not look and not comment on it as she was like, "Oh, we left her."
Yeah.
And that's that's about where I'm at, like just past that. So I think I don't have much more of the story to get.
Right. I don't know.
Sorry for talking so much.
No, that's totally fine. There's
That's
so
fine.
much to talk about with this story that you can't really encapsulate it all. And honestly, I'm gonna put the story discussion at a halt because we will have no end of story for the next episode.
And I think that's good. We
fair,
all kind
that's
of
fair.
got to touch base on it, and we got to where Casey is. So next time, if we've all finished it, then we can really jump in with the overall story ideas.
There's more story. There's more characters. He's very much in the first act, coming to a close. But I would think this game's broken into 3 acts if I had to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Adam, did you have any others? I know I talked a lot over.
No worries at all. I think I'm also good to move on to the next point.
Well, I actually wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
You and Mike here, you're playing it on your second time. This format I think is really cool. I think I can speak for both Mike and myself that we definitely get more out of these games playing them for the podcast. And I think we kind of examine them under a bigger lens as well as a more critical one. But do you think, because your last playthrough is broken up, are you getting more from it this time? Or are you kind of like, I expect this?
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm getting more from it this time. And I mean, putting it in the setting of a podcast where I'm going to, expect myself to say something about the game, the graphics, the look, the story, all that stuff. I mean, I find myself looking at things, listening for things, thinking about things I never would have during an original playthrough. Sometimes you just get caught up in a game, and you just go through it. And that's one way to experience a game, for sure. So now I've done that. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of this podcast. Now to look back at this game, this amazing game, and experience so much more of it through this lens of a critique of analyzing a game, and it's for me it's an eye opener. I absolutely love it. I think it's much different.
That's fantastic.
It is. I mean, every game we play is just so much more deep to me as we discuss it with these podcasts. But this game in particular, the higher difficulty is almost making me play it slower, but I'm also just taking my time and exploring the surroundings. Now, I will say this about the environment, and I know that that's another talking point. It is a good looking game. It's not the best, but it's a good looking game. And we'll talk about the PS3 to PS4 comparisons, I think, next time, because there's some technical things to talk about there. But the actual set pieces, they can be very realistic at times, but I don't find them necessarily all that interesting. You can't just walk around like in some games and just marvel at the details they put in until they start throwing in their own silly Naughty Dog Easter eggs later on. But it is fun to see some of the notes that you can find and read about, because you can read about other people's struggles in the world. Yeah. You can, and some of them are just completely silly. They're like shopping lists that you find, and they're meaningless. But others are notes to loved ones that said, we waited as long as we could, but I hope you find this, and I hope you're well, because we're going to be here, and I hope we see you again soon. And it does start to paint this picture of a bleak existence, and yet people are still clinging on to hope, because without that, what do you have? And yeah, just the story. Every chance you get, and if you haven't noticed already, sometimes if Ellie stops or if Tess stops and you're still nearby, make sure that you look for an icon above their head, because sometimes they'll have optional dialogue that you only have a few seconds to activate, and some of that is some of the more interesting dialogue in the game.
Right. Let's talk about that dialogue. Because Ellie is a product of this world. She exists after this incident has happened, so she doesn't know the life before it. So a lot of the interactions you have with her are really insanely unique. I think there's two that stood out for me in particular. One of them is when you're walking by an ice cream truck. Did you guys see that?
Where's the ice cream truck?
Know.
By the sniper?
By the
I missed that.
That's in Pittsburgh, right?
I think it's at the end of it, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm sure I got it the last time, but I honestly don't remember it at that point.
I think one of the most
I don't think I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the most unique parts, when you interact with her outside this ice cream truck, she doesn't know what it is. So, you explain to her like, oh, this is an ice cream truck. They used to deliver ice cream to you and play really loud, creepy music, and kids would flock to it. And, you'd be able to buy ice cream. She's like, that is ridiculous. I don't know what kind of world you were living in, but that's crazy. And it's so funny to think about that, because that's an everyday thing that we don't think about that is a little crazy. But she exists in this world where these plants are this fungi is taking over people's existence and turning them against each other. And that's what she finds ridiculous.
And that's more normal to her than driving around in a truck playing music and selling ice cream.
Yeah. I think it's also another big one is she's reading a little girl's diary. And she's talking about what she's going to wear that day and what boy she's talking to. She's like, do girls think like this? And I think that is not the one time, but one of the big times that we see how awesome Ellie is as a character. But I won't talk about it. We'll save that for the next time. But those moments I think are really special to see. This isn't a real person, but it almost seems like they have this real existence that you can sympathize with. And it's really cool. Yeah, so if you have an opportunity, like Mike said, examine all those when you can, because so far when I've done it, it's been really rewarding, and it's super cool to see a character set up that uniquely.
I think I've missed a couple, too. I saw them up there. I don't think I got there in time. So I'll have to be a little closer to, I think.
I think in terms of, I just want to, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Just to touch on, you were just saying that, Ellie is a very unique character, and I think, honestly, for me, I'll throw it out there. I think for me, like Ellie makes the game, and maybe that's a bandwagon that everybody is on already. But I mean, there are so many things that happen throughout the game, and so many small things that happen throughout the game that keep you like smiling in this in this atmosphere of a post-apocalyptic world. Like when Ellie learns that, she can whistle. It's one of the best things in the game for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Nowhere, and she's just, she's like, oh my God, I can whistle. Like, here we are trudging through some really serious stuff, and you're excited because you can finally
You're literally in a sewer.
I thought that was hilarious. And yeah, I guess anyway. So there are things like that. Actually, I think Ellie's like, I don't know what we're supposed to talk about or not supposed to talk about right now, but I think actually the way like her AI, everything About Ellie was just done extremely well, to the point where she won't, like, if she's waiting for you, sometimes she'll like sit up on a table versus just standing there following you when you move, following you again when you move, like, anyway, so there are so many things that I started noticing about Ellie through replaying this that I truly enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, if you mentioned the AI, I just want to talk about two really brief things that turned me off from the game. And one of them is the AI in combat. Because you'll be at a part where you're sneaking around, and all of a sudden Ellie's running out of cover in front of you, and these clickers are just sneaking by like nothing happened. It's like,
right.
Come on, you couldn't just keep her behind me against the wall, like being quiet. So there are times where the AI really removes me from the scene at hand, but that has lessened the farther you get in the game and in the more open environments you're in. So in the beginning of the game, that kind of killed some scenes for me, and also helped me because I was afraid of someone. But they got a little ridiculous to me. I wouldn't say the AI improves as you go on, but the environments that you're thrown in, that's not really much of a factor. And speaking of which, the environment, there are a lot of really, really spectacular environments. Whenever you're outside, everything is set up pretty sensibly in a way that you really understand. But whenever you're inside and there's a cutscene or something going on, it's so brutally obvious that there's about to be a shootout in here because it's just set up like a paintball match. Like everything, there's cover everywhere in a way that isn't natural. Like you're in a lot of dilapidated buildings, so I get stone falling or, there being cars out in the way. But in some places, it's just too obvious. Some is just, it really removes me from it. I'm like, oh, I was enjoying the story. Now I know there's going to be a shootout, and I can't enjoy this cutscene because I know that something is going to come in here soon.
And what about the buildings with that always have at least one blocked off staircase? There's always a staircase in there that you can't go up or you can't go down, and I'm just thinking,
right.
You could crawl over that really if you wanted to.
Yeah, right. So those are my two big little gripes, but
I fully agree. By the way, about the AI during combat, that I laugh all the time when it's either Ellie and Bill or whoever you're with. They're running around like madmen. The bad guys walk right in front of them, and then they still say,
things.
"Where is this guy?"
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree.
So are we talking about gameplay?
We're talking about what you want to talk about.
Oh snap!
No, it's your podcast. This ain't mine.
Well, actually, so I did want to mention about the animations because I didn't notice it on the PS3, and maybe it's just more emphasized now that it's 60 frames a second. But animations can be really, really wonky at times and look just kind of stiff and robotic. So that's kind of taken me out of it. The other thing is, so especially on the grounded difficulty, stealth is the name of the game because you barely get any ammo. So if you're not choking everyone out or shanking them with a shiv, you are going to run out of supplies very quickly. So I just find myself sneaking a ton. And what takes me out of the experience is when I sneak, and if they see me, they kill me right away. If they see Ellie, they don't see anything.
Yeah.
And now sometimes, and I think for the first time I noticed it 2 days ago when I was playing, they actually grabbed her, which I've never seen them do before unless I was already caught. Every other time, she can run from cover to cover, like in front of someone, and they don't notice her.
Yeah.
And that to me is a problem. Now, on the flip side, I've kind of given this some thought, and I wondered, okay, what if they did see her every time? Then I would be constantly starting these encounters over for no fault of my own. And that would get frustrating too. So it's almost weird. How do you find that balance? But
keep them a step behind you.
But she doesn't. She doesn't listen. She's a rebel.
She doesn't listen. She's a child.
That's
She's
what
a rebel.
I'm saying. Like, if they can do it with Ice Climbers and Super Smash Brothers, then they can figure it out with Ellie. But either way, we can move on from this because, Blue, hit us with some science. I know you've been bottling it up.
Oh, God. Are we sure? Are you guys ready? Is the world ready?
I'm a lean back. You go.
Okay.
For
I'm ready to get scienced.
So, my background is in science, and specifically environmental science, specifically herpetology, which is the study of reptiles and amphibians, which actually doesn't come into play except for the fact that reptiles and amphibians often eat insects. Insects often have parasites and different things associated with them, including a little real genus of fungus called cordyceps. If you've been playing Last of Us and you've listened to the newscast or read anything, you actually know that the fungus that has taken over humanity and caused these mindless drones or zombies is actually a modified cordyceps fungus. Why I think this is so cool. In the animal world, there are a number of parasites, fungi included, that can actually not only take over their host body, but actually take over their mind and cause them to do things they wouldn't normally do. For example, there is actually a fungus, I don't think it's a cordyceps, but it's another type, that actually infects the brain of isopods. You might know these as the little silvery gray roly-polies that you'll find under like moist rocks and logs. And it infects the brain, and it actually scrambles their wires to the point where instead of seeking dark places like under rocks, under logs, they actually seek out the brightest spots, which are typically at the top of plants. So it makes them completely change their behavior, and the reason it does this is because its second lifestyle, its spore life cycle, is actually in the gut of birds. So it changes the mind of this insect to climb on top of a plant where it gets easily spotted by birds. It gets eaten by a bird. The fungus then becomes spores inside of the bird's digestive system. It then passes through into the dung of the birds where, of course, the isopods, the insects, actually collect it. Now, let's go ahead and translate this to humanity and what we're seeing in The Last of Us. In The Last of Us, cordyceps, this actual fungus, has somehow become so powerful and so modified and adapted, it can now actually infect people. In doing so, it is not killing them outright like many parasites do. Instead, it is changing us morphologically, it is changing us in a behavioral sense so that it is actually attracted to other people. These things aren't really, for what we understand, they're not feeding on us. Because if you notice, yes, they are biting us, but you never see them just stop and eat you. They beat your head in, they bash you against the wall, they bite you, but they never actually sit there and consume you because I don't believe that they are feeding off of us. I think that their whole goal is they're attracted to sounds, which is why we always find them anytime you throw a bottle. They're attracted to the sight of people, to movement, because if they can get into a point where the concentration of people is at its highest, that's when it can actually become the next form, which is the clicker. And the clicker, if you notice its face, it's kind of exploded. And cordyceps, it's, okay, this is where some of the words come into play. It's an ascomycete fungus. Ascomycete literally means sac fungi. And if you actually look at some of the more advanced forms in the game, or if you just look up photos of them online, they're just a simple stalk fungus, and at the top there's a sac. When that sac bursts, that's when the spores are released, and that's when it can infect other insects or, in Last of Us, people. The clicker is actually basically that sac has exploded and ruptured, and that's why their head is exploded like that, because it has released its spore into the atmosphere, hopefully infecting other people. So to me, why this is so interesting from a scientific perspective is, you know, when we think about how is humanity going to end one day? Is it going to be an asteroid? Is it going to be nuclear winter? Probably. Is it going to be some sort of pandemic or epidemic? Or what if it is something that we already exist with every single day, and all it's going to take is one genetic mutation for it to be able to infect us, and we'll have absolutely no control over it? And to me, that terrifies me and intrigues me to no end.
You just literally blew my mind.
Boom.
I had never actually looked at the game from that perspective. You assume, okay, zombie apocalypse, and you think unrealistic. You know, that's just sort of the you're like, okay, check mark, we're in a zombie apocalypse. That is really interesting. Do you actually know? You said that this fungus changes the wiring inside of this insect to cause it to actually seek brighter light. Do you actually know what it's changing? Is it doing something? Is it changing like a specific protein, or is it DNA, or is it like affecting the gene?
You know, I don't know that. I know it's probably messing with protein receptors, if I had to guess without reading more into it, because what it's actually doing, it obviously not literally rewiring, but it is switching its photoreceptors. So it becomes, it goes from negative phototropic to positive phototropic simply by changing the way these photoreceptors actually react to the light. So I would guess it's probably just blocking one of the protein receptors, and it's completing that switch just, literally like a switch.
That's interesting. Just to me, when you start talking about, how is the world going to end, and could something like this potentially one day, could there be a strand of it that one day affects humans? And that the first thing I think of is like, all right, well, how does it work? How could it actually affect us, and how would we prevent it? That is super cool.
And think about it this way. So with these parasites, with these fungi, and there's other, even some nematodes can be parasitic in this nature. You don't show any physical signs. You don't actually have these stalks growing out of your body until it has already taken root and it's already changed your behavior. So if this were to ever happen, and I wish we saw the outbreak more in depth when it happened, it wouldn't look like these people were sick. It would look, for all intents and purposes, that they were mentally disturbed, that they had some sort of psychotic break. They would act irrationally, but we would never think that there's something inside of them biologically that is changing them, altering them, until it's probably too late.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
I look forward to going back into the story and actually looking at the environment.
Yeah.
And like at actual gameplay. I'm looking forward to that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, especially check out, if you ever see corpses of some of the infected, you'll actually see the little stalks of fungi growing all over them.
Yeah. And that's another thing that actually excited me about this game before it came out, because normally I don't like zombies, but I had watched Planet Earth, and I saw one of those fungi take over like a colony of ants. And then when they had announced The Last of Us, and I saw that it's more based on these fungi, I was like, wow, they are taking some time and care to make this realistic. I'll check this out. And then I was like, wait, I don't have a PS3. And then Remastered came out, and I was like, I guess now I'll check it out. But that was actually one of the big selling points for me.
It just adds to the story is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
If only the gameplay was better.
Right.
There's my jab.
So for clickers, Blue, you were saying that their faces are more opened up and they have like these spores. Why isn't it necessary for Joel to throw on the mask to? Is it to prevent?
Stops the pores from him ingesting it, maybe?
So do you say why is it or why isn't it?
Why isn't it necessary for Joel to put on a mask when he sees a clicker? I know when you go into an area and you see spores everywhere, he's always like, spores, So maybe it's more of a concentration sort of a thing, or
maybe
it seems to be a concentration issue, but I would also say two things. One, clickers having their faces already exploded means they've already released the spores. Mm-hmm. So theoretically, it's already kind of been disseminated and dispersed. The other thing, though, is it's not always consistent. For example, when you are with Bill and you're going through the school and you get to that gymnasium, that big guy, that fat infected that you fight,
the bloater,
he's throwing he's throwing spores at you, and you don't ever cover up, and that doesn't sit well with me. That was inconsistent.
The thing with the clickers, I thought, one, they had already released their spores, and two, it is a game, and that'd be super inconvenient to be like, clicker, and then he has to dig through his backpack and put it on every time. So I think that is where the discrepancy is. And they could cover it up with something like, you have this much time in the presence of a clicker or something.
And also, Joel might just not know better. He sees all these plants and the fungi coming at him. It's like, oh, okay, that's a logical connection. But to be in the midst of a zombie throwing stuff at you, or his face exploded, that connection, he's not making that connection yet. Because he doesn't know everything. So it could be something as simple as that.
Yeah, I completely agree. We don't really know that backstory, but that's not backstory we really need. They dig into enough of it.
It's cool to think about, though. And
yes, and it's cool to add that layer to the game.
And it's different. It's a different turn to the zombie post-apocalyptic genre, which is cool.
Yeah.
It was a zombie game built out of reality, and it's the first time I've ever seen it, and I really appreciate it. The other pop culture reference that did an okay job at it was the 28 Days Later, because at least they made it a virus.
Can we make a podcast on those movies?
No, absolutely not. I will absolutely
Stone will not be a part of
yeah,
this.
it will be. Yeah, I got through the credits, the beginning credits, and I stopped.
They're masterpieces, don't give them.
They might be, and I can appreciate them for that, but they're not the masterpieces for me. You know what's a masterpiece to me? Toy Story.
Oh my goodness!
That nobody dies in that. But anyway, we've talked enough about it. Well, we haven't talked enough about it, but we've talked enough time about it because there is so much story we have yet to talk about. There is so much about these characters we have to talk about and the environments that we can't contain it all in one episode. We have a lot more coming for the next discussion. It's going to be all The Last of Us, all four of us sharing our final opinions on the game, and that will be out on September the 15th. Now, in the meantime, we are also hoping to, and no hardcore promises here, but we're hoping to play some multiplayer together and get the experience there because according to some people here, it's pretty good. So
I enjoy it. I'll just put it out that way. And they even do a little bit of side story with it, which I think is neat.
Cool.
I have never played the multiplayer version of this game, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
It'll be fun as a group of four, sure.
I've never played it. I've never seen it played. I'm excited to play with you guys. I'm hoping to stream, no promises, but fingers crossed. And all of the links to check out Casey and Adam and Drinking Souls will be in the description below. Thank you so much, Casey and Adam, for joining us. I can't wait to hear your closing thoughts on the game. But, as always, this has been the Forgot to Save podcast.
Whoa. I thought they were closing.
I was getting ready to do it.
I was just reminding them that this was the Forgot to Save podcast. Have you guys heard of us before?
I had never heard of you. No.
I would say we're kind of a big deal, but...
Right.
Yeah, now you are, because me and Adam are here.
We're in talks with Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar needed a boost, and he wants to come on the show, but we decided to choose you guys instead. So why don't you guys close it out, you cool kids?
All right. Well, this has been the Forgot to Save podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Mike.
And I've been Swipe Left. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. That was a blast.
That was dumb.